Romans chapter 5, verse 1 through 11. 2 points today: peace and suffering. First, peace. Let me paraphrase what Romans 5, verse 1 says in regard to peace. This is my paraphrase. Since we are justified, we have peace, and peace is a direct result of being justified. And our peace can only grow out of the soil of our justification. Peace. Now, having peace is a big theme these days. It's very common in our broader culture for people to talk about peace. I mean, I can imagine going to a home goods store or going to some brand of Magnolia, so to Target, and I can imagine a large piece of reclaimed distressed wood with Romans 5:1 stenciled on it, emphasizing the word peace. I think there are a lot of words that are like peace in our secular culture. I've heard people say often to me, I want to center myself, or before I work today, I want to get centered. Centering, I think that's like a yoga thing. I guess it has something to do with being calm and finding balance. It's kind of like the sentiment of peace. I hear the phrase being present a lot these days as well. I think that means like turn off your phone, focus on the person you're talking to, don't be obsessed with the stresses and distractions that you came from, and don't focus on the stresses and distractions that will inevitably come later on. Instead, for the time you have, focus on the person before you. Be present at the moment you're in. I'm all for that. It sounds great. I'm not mocking that at all. Mindfulness, I hear that phrase a lot too. I think it means something like when you're taking a walk in the woods. Again, quit stressing out about everything in your life. At the moment, just focus on the fact that you're in the woods. Feel the air, smell the wood, enjoy the colors. You're thinking about so many things. You have to be mindful of what you have, or you're spending good times with your friend. At that moment, focus on the moment you are with your friend. Again, be mindful. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I think that's what it is. And again, I'm all for that. I'm not mocking it. I think this is all good stuff. I mean, I think we'd be better off if we incorporate that into our lives, being mindful, being present, being centered. But I think they all are variations of the broader culture's interested in this general category called peace. We all want to be at peace. And I think we talk about this so much these days because clearly we're all so stressed out and busy these days. Everyone I talk to is just stressed out and busy. It's a question of how busy and how stressed out, not if you are or not. But Romans 5, verse 1 is talking about something very different. The peace that Paul is talking about is not peace that you get from taking a break from your busy day or just enjoying your pumpkin spice latte at the moment or by pampering yourself by being present in your yoga class. What is this peace that Paul is talking about? Well, I want you to imagine a friend, a loved one, a family member, maybe someone in your community of Christians in your church, someone you love, as in really love and trust, and someone you rely on, someone with whom you have no barriers, no guard. And now I want you to imagine that this person has betrayed you, hurt you, and they have failed you. And they were not there when they needed you most. I mean, they betrayed you. And I want you to use your imagination. Just think about that and feel that for a minute. Okay, just feel it in your gut. Now, I want you to imagine that that person is actually still part of your life. Like you can't avoid them. You can't walk away because they're part of your family or they're part of your intimate friend circle and you can't cut them out of your life for some reason. Now, I want you to use your imagination and feel that in your gut that this person that betrayed you, that failed you, is like with you. You can't run away to another state or city. They're there. What is that feeling? Well, awkward at the very least. It's very tense. That is this horrible feeling you have. And how could this ever get better? There needs to be some kind of complete and total resolution and reconciliation. It's like the person needs to come out and leave everything on the table and offer a drastic and real apology and do something to make you whole, to make things right, if that's even possible. And only when that drastic work can happen can maybe you can achieve some kind of peace and that horrible discomfort and tension is resolved. Paul says in Romans 5:1, what we get is, quote, peace with God, end quote. Meaning that in our natural state, we are at war with God. Our relationship with God is broken, is ruptured. Things are not good. And that relationship is a foundation of our lives. And when that is screwed up, everything's screwed up. And by the way, that's what inspired my Leaning Tower of Pisa reflection on Facebook on art and theology. It's crooked. Foundationally, it's crooked. And in our natural state, we spend our lives building up, even though it's crooked, and then trying to compensate But everything we build after the foundation is screwed up is crooked and it's wrong. But when we're at peace with God, that's the foundation of our life. That's a foundation for a better life that we can build upon. Centering, being present, being mindful, that's great. That's good stuff. I want that. We should all want that. But it's nothing compared to being reconciled with God, being at peace with God, being going from a state of tension and anxiety and feeling like you're fighting God or things aren't right in your life, the foundations are screwed up, being at war with God, to being at peace with God when things are right. You are reconciled and you guys are in a good position. Until you're at peace with God, until your foundations are right, the rest is just really pointless. I want to talk about the second subject, suffering. That shows up in verses 3 and 4. At the very least, this topic needs a 40-minute lecture or sermon, at the very least, and even then that will only scratch the surface. But Paul does talk about suffering leading to perseverance, perseverance leading to character, and character hope, and hope does not disappoint. What does this mean? So what should I say? Well, I'll leave it to you and your group, perhaps, to think about this. That's so much there to unpack. Let me just say one thing. I know a few people. They're not perfect, but the thing I know about these few people in my mind specifically is that they hunger after God, and they are humble, and they desire to be holy. I think their lives are given unselfishly for the work of God and the service of people, and they persevere. I think another word I would describe these people that stand out in my mind as people I really admire is that this is a weird word, but they're broken. They're broken before God. Their egos have been crushed. They know that no matter how hard they try, this world will not offer them what they want, and they couldn't get it anyway. It's been broken. Um, and they persevere too. I know a lot of people who get all fired up following God after a retreat or for a season of their life. They're all fired up. They get really pumped up for God during a phase of their life, like college or maybe some experience they've had. And for a lot of these people, or some people, that moment kind of peters out. But some people endure, they persist. They're not flashy. They just plug away, seeking after God in very anonymous and humble ways. And the people I'm thinking about it have one thing in common. They've all suffered. And that suffering has changed them. That suffering was like a crucible. A crucible is actually a container that you put a little piece of metal into, and you put the crucible into an incredibly hot furnace, and then the metal melts, and it turns into an alloy. And the shape of the metal, the nature of the metal is altered by the heat. Suffering is like a crucible. It changes you. It alters you. I want to end with John chapter 16:33. I have told you these things that you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world. I think it's interesting. Jesus is saying not that you might have trouble or suffer. He's saying you are gonna have trouble. You will suffer. But he says, don't be discouraged. Jesus says, I have overcome the world. Suffering is a mystery to me. I don't understand it. But this is my faith that we will suffer. And Christ says, I have defeated the things that make you suffer. How that works out is a mystery to me, but that is my hope.